This webinar is brought to you by SellerEngine in partnership with our friends from TaxJar. I'm Yulia Oltanu, and I'm a pricing specialist at SellerEngine. And I'm really excited to host this webinar with TaxJar's Chief of Content and Community, Jennifer Dunn. Hello, Jennifer, and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody.
So as I was saying, we are going to talk today about sales tax. During our webinar today, Jennifer will go over the basics Amazon sellers need to know about sales tax, when to register for a sales tax permit, and how to simplify your sales tax life. That should be pretty exciting. At the end, we'll have a short live session of questions and answers, so please do send in your questions in the chat box. If time does not allow us to answer all questions, we will send them over to Jennifer, and she will make sure to get the answers via email to each of you. Since this is our first webinar after a long time, for those of you who do not know SellerEngine, I wanted to give you a couple of details before we get started. SellerEngine is the company who introduced the first ever Amazon repricing and research tool on the market back in 2002. Since then, we've developed our powerful repricing software tool, Sellery. We've continued to develop our mobile scouting app, Profit Bandit, and we formed our own line of Amazon tailored services. Most popular ones being the account rescue one, the listing reinstatement, and the account monitoring. You can head over to our website, SellerEngine.com, or you can send over your questions to sales@SellerEngine.com, and we'll be happy to answer them. Okay, well, now I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer.
Hello, guys. I'm Jennifer Dunn, the Chief of Content with TaxJar. That's me. Now, since I'm sharing my screen, I cannot hear or see any chat or anything like that. So if you guys can't hear me, or if there's some kind of technical difficulty, Julia or Trish, if you guys will just interrupt me and let me know, that would be awesome. I am the Chief of Content and Community at TaxJar. So that means I write all the tax blog posts if you've ever looked at our blog with a sales tax question, or you might see me around Facebook or web forums that talk about sales tax. I have 9 years of experience in e-commerce tax, so I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a lot of changes, and I've talked to a lot of people over the years, which that includes sellers, but also sales tax pros, state auditors, and just people from states themselves who give us a lot of info about sales tax and trends and what's coming up. So what I am here to do is just to help you make informed decisions about sales tax. We'll talk about sales tax basics today. I'm going to share some next steps, like what you should do about sales tax after this, if anything. And I'll give you some resources to help you in the future. And of course, you are free to ask questions in the chat. You can ask throughout the webinar, or you can save your question for after, or you can always contact us if you want to ask a private question. I totally understand. And I will give you our contact information at the end there. And I do want to say that I'm going to share a lot of information, and it's going to be very high level. So I don't want you to panic that, oh my gosh, I'm missing something. We have a ton of content online. We have videos and other things, blog posts for you to read. And so please don't think that you're missing anything. And if you miss something, you can ask a question later, or you can get with me and I can make sure that you have an answer to what you are asking about. I talk with people like you guys every day. Look at these bullet points and see if any of these sound like you. FBA sellers, people who sell on multiple channels. You just want to be educated. And maybe you're already collecting sales tax and it's frustrating. It's just been a waste of time for you. It's unprofitable. I mean, this is the average TaxJar customer. They just want sales tax to go away. And we're so fortunate in that we were able to do that for people. It's awesome to work at TaxJar because we have 9,000 customers and we hear from them every day, saying, oh my gosh, what would I have done without you guys? I was wasting so much time on sales tax. So that's what I'm going to talk about today in the presentation, just how you can also not waste time on sales tax. First, I'm going to go over some basics. Once again, this is going to be very high level. I'm going to go over it kind of fast. So if you have any questions, if you want something explained in further detail, just drop a note there in the chat. First of all, when you think of sales tax, you think of the IRS, because this is actually wrong. The IRS doesn't have anything to do with sales tax. Sales tax is governed at the state level. So that means there are 45 different sets of sales tax laws. And if you live in Washington, D.C., it's a 46th set of sales tax laws. So all the rules about things like sales tax nexus, which we'll get to later, rules about what is taxable and what is not taxable. Sales tax rates are different, and the sales tax due dates are different across those 45 different states. So some of you, if you have sales tax nexus in more than one state, you have already run into this, how no two states are alike when it comes to their sales tax laws. These are all the states with a sales tax. 5 states don't have a sales tax. So, if you live in one of those states, you do business in one of those states, you're pretty lucky. You don't have to deal with sales tax, at least for that single state. Now, what's taxable is a question we get a lot. You only have to collect sales tax from your customers if you're selling things that are taxable. So if you're selling, say, clothing in Pennsylvania, clothing is not taxable in Pennsylvania. So you do not have to collect sales tax. You're very lucky. You don't got to worry about it. Now, most of the time, services are not taxable. So if you say you sell online, but you also do consulting work, you do coaching over the phone or something like that, over the internet, those are mostly not taxable. So thank goodness for that, even though some states are changing their tune on that one. And also shipping and gift wrapping. If you charge your buyers $2.99 for shipping, that might be taxable. If around the holidays you gift wrap for your customers, that might be taxable. Tangible personal property like this, so just kind of an object that you sell, a lamp or a coffee cup or a piece of furniture, almost always taxable. Clothing, sometimes taxable, sometimes it's not taxable. That depends on the state. The same thing goes with groceries. Groceries also sometimes are taxable at a lower rate. So you may pay a 7% sales tax when buying a coffee cup, and then at the same checkout, you pay 1% sales tax buying these Cheerios. Shipping, sometimes taxable, sometimes not taxable. Once again, that depends on the state. Now, this is an interesting one. In New York, this is a bagel. In New York, this bagel is not taxable when it looks like this. But when you open it up like that, it becomes taxable. And that's because that first bagel is considered grocery food. It's something you would go home and prepare. The second bagel is considered prepared for you to eat right now because it's been cut in half. So it becomes taxable. I know it can be really strange. There's some other more weird and zany sales tax laws out there too. Now, sales tax is a pass-through tax. We sometimes get people coming to TaxJar saying, I can't afford sales tax. Well, if you say that, you might be doing it wrong because you're supposed to collect the sales tax from your customer and then send it to the state. You never pay out of pocket. That's not income tax, it's sales tax. It's a totally different thing. So you think of yourself as a collection agent. You are doing a job on behalf of the state, whether you want to be or not. You're collecting sales tax from buyers and then sending it on to the state. And now the state wants this sales tax and they want it badly. And that's because they use sales tax to pay for budget items like schools and roads and public safety and things like that. And a lot of states are frankly broke. So they're on about getting that sales tax. Now, if that already sounds complicated, I will let you know that getting started is the hardest part. We have so many people come to us and say, oh my gosh, there's too many rules. There's 3 different states and all 3 states have different rules. I don't know what to do. But fortunately, sales tax can be automated. So I'm going to go over sales tax just a little bit more, some of the basics, and then we'll talk about how you can automate sales tax. First of all, what the heck is nexus? I'm sure you've heard this word nexus. It's a Latin word. It just means to bind or tie or join. But when it comes to sales tax nexus is when you have a presence or connection in a state significant enough for you to be required to comply with that state's sales tax laws. Now I'm going to go over some things that create nexus in most states. Once again, all 45 states are a little bit different, but most of the time, well, actually all the time, an office. And that includes a home office. That includes if you work from your laptop at your kitchen table, you will always have sales tax nexus in your home state. And that's even if you do something like online arbitrage where you don't actually touch the products, it doesn't matter because your body is in the state, you have sales tax nexus there. A retail store definitely creates sales tax nexus. An employee definitely creates sales tax nexus. Also, salespeople, installers, and even some contractors create sales tax nexus. A salesperson and an affiliate also create sales tax nexus. So if you have an affiliate program where you give people a small cut of the profit for sending sales your way, then you might have Nexus in some states where your affiliates are located. Attending a trade show, that's what this one is, attending a trade show or a craft fair. In some cases, those create sales tax nexus, and in some cases, they don't. Fortunately, a lot of us go to trade shows in places like Nevada. They love having trade shows, so they want to make it as simple as possible. So attending and selling at a trade show doesn't create sales tax nexus in Nevada. So that was good to know. And this is the one that gets Amazon sellers. This is inventory in a warehouse. All states say that having inventory in a warehouse creates sales tax nexus. Now, there are a couple of them. The reason I said most states, there are a couple of them that have some weird exemptions, but all states say something about having inventory for sale in a warehouse creates sales tax nexus. So these are states right now where Amazon has fulfillment centers. Fortunately, you don't have to worry about every state probably, because we've noticed through TaxJar's data that most sellers have nexus in about 10 to 12 states. Some might have less, some might have more. This also depends on what you sell. There are some fulfillment centers like Connecticut, they're only for giant items like grills and kayaks and things like that. That's what their robots are set up for. So you probably wouldn't have nexus in Connecticut unless you sell big giant things. And unfortunately, this Virginia thing down here, that was one of the exceptions I was talking about. But now that it's past July 1st, that is over. So ignore that little part about Virginia down there. Unfortunately, now you do have sales tax nexus in Virginia if you sell on FBA. Now, Amazon, they're building more and more fulfillment networks. They have fulfillment centers coming online in Michigan and in Utah coming up pretty soon. They're just investing in infrastructure left and right. And also, there's been a lot of federal and state legislation and judicial cases moving around that might change how sales tax is collected. So there's just a lot going on in sales tax. That's why I always recommend you keep up with the TaxJar blog. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but we do let you know about important developments in sales tax that you need to know for your business. All right, so when should you collect sales tax? This is a big question. The golden rule is collect sales tax when the item sold is shipped to a state where you have sales tax nexus. I know that golden rule can be a little difficult to parse, so we are going to go through an example. This is Joe Seller. Joe lives in Akron, Ohio. He sells out of his house. He's one of those guys who uses his laptop as his kitchen table, like we were talking about. He's just getting started. He only has sales tax nexus in Ohio, where he lives. So he is complying in Ohio. He registered, he got himself a sales tax permit that made him legal to collect sales tax. So Joe makes a sale from Akron, Ohio to a buyer in Lakewood, Ohio. Then Joe should collect sales tax. But Joe lives in Akron, he makes a sale to someone in Waltham, Massachusetts, then he does not collect sales tax. He doesn't have nexus there. He doesn't have to collect sales tax. Woohoo! But then Joe's business grows. Joe finds a third-party fulfillment service. Now he has inventory stored in Nevada for sale. He now has nexus in Ohio and Nevada. So he gets a sales tax permit in Nevada as well. He's complying in both states. Now, if he makes a sale from either Ohio or Nevada to either Ohio or Nevada, he would collect sales tax. Now, it doesn't matter if the shipment originates in Ohio or Nevada. What matters is where he ships the item to. And so if he ships either to Ohio or Nevada, he collects sales tax. But if he ships to a customer in Stockport, Iowa, he does not collect sales tax. Now Joe starts using FBA. He now has a nexus in 6 states, Ohio and plus 5 more Amazon states. He's complying in all 6 states. So now if he makes a shipment from any of those states to any of those states where he has nexus, those 6 states right there, then he collects sales tax. But if he makes a sale to any of those other states, which are known in sales tax lingo as remote states, then he does not need to charge sales tax. He can just forget about it. So how much sales tax should you collect? Another good question. Fortunately, if you sell on Amazon, which I know most of you do, Amazon has a very robust sales tax engine. So I'm not going to go over this in too much detail because thankfully Amazon takes care of this for you. So the state where the item is shipped determines the tax rate. This is important to remember. Remember Joe, when he had nexus in Ohio and Nevada, he would charge Ohio buyers the Ohio sales tax and Nevada buyers Nevada sales tax. You never charge a buyer sales tax from a different state. That's incorrect. Now, the tax rate is usually the sum of many applicable rates. There's a state sales tax rate, and that's statewide. Then there are probably local sales tax rates. So then those might be county or city or parish. And then there might be another sales tax rate like an educational district or a transportation district. Like if anybody lives in New York, you have the Metro Transportation District, and that pays for the subway. Now, some states are origin-based sales tax states, and some are destination-based sales tax states. The tax rate in an origin-based state, you charge the tax rate at your house, so, or your office or your warehouse or wherever you're selling from. That's very easy. Unfortunately, there aren't that many origin-based states. It's pretty easy. Now, with a destination-based sales tax state, you charge the tax rate where the item is shipped to. You live in, you live in Ball Ground, Georgia, which is close to where I live. But you make a sale to somebody in Atlanta, Georgia, then you would charge that person the Atlanta, Georgia sales tax rate. Here. So origin state sale. Texas is an origin state. So if you live in Texas, now this is only if you live in Texas, if your business is based there, keep that in mind. You make a sale to Archer City, you forget that Irving sales tax rate, you only collect, you forget that Archer City sales tax rate, you only collect the Irving sales tax rate where you are located, because Texas is an origin state. So think about origin, where the item originates. Most states, though, are destination states. You live in Stamford, New York, but you make a sale to somebody in Buffalo, New York, then you would collect sales tax at your buyer's Buffalo address. Now, a couple quick notes about selling on Amazon and sales tax. The good news is you get to focus on your nexus. Amazon takes care of that origin and destination stuff for you, as long as you set up your sales tax collections settings correctly, which we can totally help you with at TaxJar. You put in your product tax codes. So some people ask us, should we just put in AGEN tax for everything? And no, because then Amazon is just going to charge sales tax on everything. If clothing is somebody in Pennsylvania, you need to have the AGEN cloth sales tax product tax code on there. Otherwise, Amazon isn't going to know that that is clothing, and they're going to charge sales tax to that person. And that person, they might get mad at Amazon, but they might get mad at you that you charge them sales tax, and they're going to want a refund and everything else. Central, it's 2.9% of the transaction of the sales tax collected. So if you collected $10 in sales tax, you pay a fee of 29 cents. And this is basically just what Amazon charges you for the privilege of collecting sales tax for you. I talked to several people on Facebook who just think, oh, this is terrible, another fee. But yeah, I mean, Amazon, they're kind of known as the king of fees. Now, the bad news, hang on, skipped one. Now, the bad news is you have to enable collection in Seller Central. Like I was saying, you have to tell us the product tax codes. You have to say, hey, I want to collect sales tax in my state or in this state and that state. Tell you how to collect, and then we'll tell you where to collect. So, of course, TaxJar, we can help you with that. Collect wrong, like collecting only state tax in a destination-based state. We have a really good chart and a good video that'll show you, how to set up sales tax collection in your state, where you collect sales tax as well. So the chart can be found in this book. You can go to salestax101.com, and then we will give you all that info. And deadlines. This is a timely slide because July is what we call a sales tax perfect storm. Online sellers will have a sales tax filing due in July. So if you are a very low volume seller, you might only have sales tax returns due in January, quarterly or monthly. And so July is a big quarterly month. And of course, every month is a monthly month just because it's monthly. Your frequency is tied to how much you collect. So the more taxes you collect, the more often you file. Frequencies are annual, quarterly, and they're also an annual, but there are also some weird ones like semi-annual and fiscal annual. Some of you might be on California fiscal annual, and you will have a sales tax filing due in July as well. To be a little crazy. And also don't think you can look at your buddy and say, oh, so you're only an annual filer, you must not make that much profit on Amazon. Remember, this depends on the state. And also, the thresholds in the states are different. It's another one of those cases of where, one state will say if you make $1,000 in sales tax or less than a year, or collect $1,000 in sales tax or less than a year, then you file monthly. And another may say, 50,000 or less, or something like that. State thresholds are just very different. Basically, every state is different with sales tax, and it's just good to kind of knock that into your head because it's a good rule of thumb. The deadlines are usually between the 15th and the 30th of each month, but like what I just said, they're very different in every state. And also, states will tend to reevaluate your frequency in January and sometimes in July. From the Department of Revenue, they'll usually send it in the mail because they might be telling you, hey, guess what? You can file sales tax less often. You don't have to file monthly anymore. Now you can file quarterly. Or on the flip side, they might be telling you, hey, you're making too much money now. You need to file sales tax monthly. I want to ignore that. This is kind of a typical filing scenario. Say we have an e-commerce business with sales tax nexus in 3 states. You might file every month in one state, and the due date's the 20th of the month. You might file every quarter in another state, and the due date is the last business day of the month. And then you might file annually in a 3rd state, and the due date is the 25th of the month. So as you can see, it can be really hard to get into a rhythm of filing sales tax. Like, you thought filing your quarterly estimated taxes was hard to remember those for. Well, imagine if they were all due on different days of the month. One big tip that a lot of people don't know is some states will actually give you a discount for on-time payment. It's generally between 1% and 2%, but it's free money. I'm going to show you the states that give you discounts. So if you file sales tax in any of these states, you could get a discount. Now, once again, every state is different. Michigan has really esoteric and crazy discount that's hard to figure out. One fortunate thing, though, is if you file sales tax with TaxJar auto-file, we will always take your discount and make sure that you get it back. We never keep your discount, which, a lot of competitors, a lot of CPAs would do this. Say, hey, I want to take that discount, thanks. No, we would never do that. So it just kind of depends. I do have a blog post that tells you what the discount is in each state and how to take it if you want to do that yourself as well. Don't be late. Like I just said, there's all these crazy deadlines, but unfortunately, if you're late, states, they don't give you a lot of leeway. They might give you a leeway the first time you're late, but after that, you generally have to pay a penalty, about $50. But there's also interest on what wasn't paid. So, if you owed $50 in sales tax, you would pay a $50 fine and then some interest on that $50 in sales tax that you didn't pay. Something different to different states. If anybody is there, you have to start your ACH payment in Florida at least 2 days before the due date on the 20th, so the payment is on time. Florida says it's late unless it's in your bank account by the 20th. So if your bank is going to be slow about processing ACH payment, you may have paid 3 or 4 days ahead in Florida and still end up being late. So sales tax, once again, a lot of weird little esoteric and sometimes seemingly unfair rules. Owe anything in a state. Say, you took a hiatus, you jumped in your camper and went across the country this month and you turned all your stores off. Well, that's awesome. Congrats to you. But you still need to file a sales tax return, no matter if you weren't making any sales. So if you don't file that return, you might still get that penalty, that $50 penalty. And the worst thing that can happen is they'll cancel your sales tax license. They'll be like, oh, so you hadn't filed your sales tax return? I guess you're out of business. We're going to just cancel your license. And if you want to sell again, then you have to reapply for a new one. Just kind of ridiculous things like that. If you were on vacation, if you didn't collect any sales tax, if you didn't have any sales, you still need to file that return by the due date. That's a big one that gets people in trouble. They forget about that. So the steps to filing. First of all, it's all about the data. So you want to gather all your sales and tax data across all channels. There's a report in FBA that you can use. But if you also sell on other channels like Shopify, eBay, maybe you made your own store, maybe you sell on Etsy, you're also a crafter, data too, and just some of those are better than others. Amazon's is pretty good, it's just very big and unwieldy. Give you enough information. And you also want to log into your state's website and compile all the data in the correct format. This once again depends on the state. And from there you file. Some of the common pitfalls of sales tax that we see quite a bit is forgetting to collect sales tax on every channel. Maybe you threw some stuff up on eBay, but you forgot to set up sales tax collection, or you didn't set up sales tax collection in all of your Nexus states. accurately is another big one. I don't know. I keep bringing up eBay as an example, but eBay only lets you collect one sales tax rate in each state. So as we were looking at earlier, there are a bunch of different sales tax rates in most states. So if you can only collect one sales tax rate, you're going to be wrong at some point. Not enough time to keep up. You're busy. The kind of catch-22 of sales tax is as you make more money and get busier, you have less time to deal with sales tax, but your sales tax becomes more convoluted and complicated. I mean, that's why we created TaxJar, for that very reason. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, filing in those destination states, which again is most states, is just a huge pain. You divide up the money collected, and you have to divide it up not just by state. It would be nice if you could just say, hey, you know, California, I collected $1,000, here you go. But it doesn't work that way. You also have to know how much sales tax you collected in each city, in each county, and each special taxing district. Remember those destination-based states, you collect sales tax based on your buyer's ship-to location. You know what county your buyer lives in, if they live in an agricultural district or a transportation district. I mean, it just gets really silly and really detailed. We had people who, on one of our customers' movement watches, said they used to just lock themselves in the office for a weekend to do their California sales tax return every quarter. I mean, this is really not sustainable to spend that much time on the sales tax, especially when it doesn't make you any profit. So you collect calculate, all that by jurisdiction. And then also it gets worse if you're multi-channel. So say you do all that for Amazon, and you're like, oh God, I figured out all those jurisdictions. I have it in my spreadsheet. And then you need to go pull your Shopify report and do the same thing. And then you need to combine them. Things can just get really crazy when it comes to filing sales tax. California Schedule B. This is just one of 3 different schedules in California that you're required to file. Numbers up and down too, which rounding numbers up and down also a lot of times means that the total at the end is wrong, and they want you to go back and double check everything. And this just goes down, 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 down as well. It's just a super long, super crazy schedule. And here is your TaxJar California report. What we do is we will, see there's that same Schedule B. We also have the Schedule A and the Schedule C on here. And we'll tell you, like, hey, code 38 San Francisco, put $0. Code 41 San Mateo, put $4. So your TaxJar report breaks that down for you and helps you get that done, so you don't have to sit there and go through, figure out if your customer lived in San Francisco or San Mateo, what county that's in, blah, blah, blah. TaxJar just makes it simple. Feeling like I said before, I'm going to share a lot of high-level information. There's a ton of it, so I totally understand if you want to do a little head slap right now. Totally get it. Head in the sand is probably the worst option. I wouldn't just try to make it go away and try to pretend it doesn't exist, especially in your own state, and we'll get to that in a minute. Your best effort, definitely better than no effort. So states, fortunately, they like people who try to comply, even if some of the most esoteric, crazy rules escape them. States want you to at least try. On the other hand, don't drain your resources trying to comply. And I'm going to go over this in a minute. If you're a brand new seller and you are not sure if this is going to be for you yet, you're just getting your feet wet, we do not recommend going out and registering for a sales tax permit in a whole bunch of states because you're selling on an FBA. We have people who come in very zealously who say, okay, I'm going to sell an FBA. I'm going to start my business on July 1st, and I am going to register in all 50 states to collect sales tax. Like, whoa, stop. Don't do that. You need to take some calculated risks as a business owner when you're registering for a sales tax permit. So how do you get started? Comply in your home state. And the way to comply is first register for a sales tax license. Very important sidebar here. Don't collect sales tax without registering for a sales tax license. And people will ask about this. This is the only way you go to jail for sales tax, is if you collect sales tax and you put it in your pocket for a sales tax permit, or if you are registered and you keep it in your pocket. Just never keep sales tax that you collected. That's considered tax fraud. It's very bad. So always register for a sales tax license. Now, enable sales tax collection is the next step in Amazon, in Shopify, and eBay, wherever you sell. And then pay and file in your home state. So you're all set right there. You definitely always want to register for a sales tax permit in your home state if you need to have one, because it's pretty easy for your home state to find you and say, hey, where's our sales tax, if if you're not in compliance. Branching out to new states. So this is where we get a ton of questions from FBA sellers. They'll say, well, I don't believe it. I don't think that another state could come after me if I don't collect sales tax in their state. I don't care if I have inventory in the warehouse. And I get you. Like I was pretty incredulous when I first started writing about this. The laws in those states, and those states get to govern their own sales tax, say, if you have inventory for sale in a warehouse, then you have nexus here. You need to collect sales tax. I recommend you read our When to Register for a Sales Tax License blog post and white paper. The white paper was written by a CPA, and it talks about another concept called materiality. And I'm going to go into this just super quickly. So basically, say you have sales tax nexus in California, and you're not collecting sales tax there, and you look at your TaxJar report and you say, I should have collected $10,000 in sales tax in California last year. If California fines me, oh my gosh, they'll charge me fines for every time I didn't file a sales tax return, and they'll charge me interest on that $10,000. That could really kill my business. My business is just getting off the ground. Yes, that might really be a business buster. On the other hand, say you look at states like Kansas, South Carolina, other little small states, and you say, you know what, last year I should have collected $50 in sales tax from buyers in this state. If Kansas or South Carolina, whoever comes after me and audits me, first of all, my business can't survive that. It's bad. Second of all, they probably won't come after me. It's such a small amount. But on the other hand, if you want to ever sell your business, you need to be in total compliance. So that's why it's one of those, 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other things. You want to take the risk. You can afford a $50 penalty if Kansas ever finds you. Then don't register and collect sales tax in Kansas if you feel that way. Now, if you're more conservative, or if you ever want to sell your business, because your books have to be in really good order to sell your business, you may want to be very conservative and register for a sales tax permit technically in every state where you have nexus. Because the letter of the law is, if you have inventory for sale in a state, then you have nexus there. But I do recommend that when to register for a sales tax license, because that is going to actually give you some numbers to look at and say, this is the point where I need to be worrying about sales tax in this state. And step 2, some more of this, is make sure you collect on all channels for your nexus states. In Ohio, just because you sell on Amazon, you also need to collect in Ohio because you sell on Etsy or eBay. You need to collect on all of those different channels because you do have nexus. Now, who's going to know if you don't comply? Well, it's up to you. Risk tolerance is your guide. States are getting more desperate. I have a lot of stories like this. Like Connecticut just recently has asked Amazon for information, and they won't say what they asked for. Washington has started asking for people's inventory event detail reports. Now, this is not super common, but that inventory event detail report shows where your inventory is located in Amazon. Washington, of course, is where Amazon is headquartered, so they might have some insider knowledge about how Amazon reports work. There are other states who are not, don't seem to really be into e-commerce at all. Don't recognize that e-commerce sellers are out here maybe not collecting sales tax. Once again, let your risk be your guide. And there's also some legislation looming, things like the Marketplace Fairness Act, which would be terrible for online sellers. It would mean you would have to collect sales tax in more states beyond the ones you already have nexus in. But things like that is looming. So you never know. Like some bill might come out that makes things much easier. It might come out that makes things much harder. We keep track of it all on the TaxJar blog. And speaking of TaxJar, let me just tell you very quickly about what we do. All that stuff I was talking about, we automate it for you. We make it simple. With TaxJar reports, you can use a sales tax report to file your sales tax returns. With TaxJar auto file, which you can do in all 50 states, we will automatically file your sales tax returns for you. So if you don't want to file sales tax anymore, if you're too busy, then let us do it for you. E-commerce providers. If you see one on here that you use that we don't use yet, just let us know. We have Walmart coming soon, by the way, so that's exciting. I know a lot of you guys are Walmart sellers these days. This is your TaxJar dashboard. You will see how much sales tax you collected in each state. Like this person collected a whole bunch in Colorado. We'll also show you where you might have nexus on Amazon. Now you can find this yourself in your inventory event detail report in Amazon, but we'll also show you on TaxJar if you don't want to try to go through that report. That report is a daily report, so you have to sit there and look at each day. kind of a pain in the butt. TaxJar will show you where we see that you might have Nexus. Your sales tax collected by jurisdiction. Here's that California post again. And so if you want to look at all this stuff, or you want to use this to file your sales tax return, we'll also tell you if you're collecting the right amount. Remember when I told you that thing about eBay only lets you collect one sales tax rate in any state? You should have collected, and that way you can make it right with the state. So if your state's kind of coming after you for being off, or if you get audited and the state says, hey, we think you're wrong, you can go look at your TaxJar expected sales tax due report and see how much you should have collected. Auto file for you in all 50 states. Every state with a sales tax will auto file your sales tax return. So if you don't ever want to do this again, I don't blame you. Just let us auto file. It just costs $19.95 per filing. These are our 9,000 happy customers, or some of them. One of my favorites is SpaceX. I just think it's really cool that SpaceX uses TaxJar. Maybe somebody who's been in the TaxJar dashboard has also been up to space. Or one day in the future. I don't think they're sending people up to space yet. You guys might know better than me. Coca-Cola, another one of our customers. So you can see just some interesting and fun customers there. Here are helpful resources. We also have a YouTube channel, a lot of videos. .com will take you to our Facebook group. And then blog at taxjar.com. Any sales tax question you might have, just ask it there. So you can always call us. Make sure you leave a message. And you can get started for free. It's a 30-day free trial. Your first auto file is free right now. We just started that promotion. So if anybody wants a free auto file, just sign up for TaxJar, become a paying customer, and you'll get a free auto file. Guys, I love questions, so ask away. Or if you have a private question, you can email us at support@taxjar.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was really great information. Make it sound so easy, but I'm sure it doesn't. The examples you've offered are really comprehensive, and I'm sure they will be helpful for our audience, especially since July is sales tax month.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this leaves us with a couple of minutes for live questions. There is one sent in by Jills Daniel, and he says that Tennessee says you must make at least $4,000 per year in Tennessee, or your permit could be revoked. What does that mean?
Oh, great question. And yeah, remember earlier in the presentation, I said a couple of states have weird exceptions. Tennessee was one of the ones I was thinking of. So in Tennessee, if you don't make more than either $400 a month or $4,800 a year, you are not required to collect sales tax in Tennessee. Any sellers, you may have Nexus in Tennessee, you may live there, or you may have inventory in one of the Tennessee warehouses, but you don't have to collect sales tax unless you're making above that $4,800 threshold.
I see. I hope this answers Daniel's question. We have some other questions that have been sent over by our audience when they signed up, and Tennessee was quite a frequent question, so I'm sure you've answered to a lot of them. Okay, next question says. Everything as FBA. Orders as FBM are going to be subject for tax on all FBA states. I think you've already answered this via your presentation.
I can reiterate that one though, because it is pretty confusing. If you want to look it up, if you really want to get into the weeds with this, there is a Supreme Court case called National Geographic versus the California Board of Equalization. And that's where they decided that if you have Nexus in one state due to one business activity, then if that business has Nexus in all states. So quick example, say you sell on Amazon, and the only reason you have sales tax Nexus in Georgia is because you sell on Amazon. That's the only reason you have inventory in a warehouse. But then you make a sale on eBay to a buyer in Georgia, you're also required to collect sales tax from that buyer on that eBay sale. And that's just because of that Supreme Court case, National Geographic versus California Board of Equalization. So yeah, not the funnest news in the world, but I do hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does. Another one of our audience says, being a European company, how do we deal with tax issues selling through FBA in the USA?
Great question. We get a lot of questions like this, and unfortunately, it can be pretty complicated. If you have a U.S. bank account, because most U.S. states only allow payment by a U.S. bank account. And a lot of times they won't even let you register for a sales tax permit unless you have a U.S. bank account. So it can be a little complicated. But so I have a couple of recommend that do registrations and help international sellers, because you need to have a kind of a representative in the U.S. Sometimes this is called a registered agent. And I can recommend those. I'll just tell you the names really quickly, and then I can put those in the chat here toward the end. So the names are Peisner Johnson. The first one, Peisner Johnson, Peisner Johnson. And the other one is Sylvia Dion, Sylviadion. Different accounting firms that help international sellers. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of easy DIY ways to do this.
I see. Well, I guess they can get in touch or check out your blog for more information.
Yeah, we have a couple of good blog posts for international sellers. One of them was written by that Sylvia Dion. She's a very, very in-demand international accountant.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now we have Rich, who says, if I live in Canada but I sell in the USA, what are the amounts I must make to submit sales taxes?
Okay, that's a great question. So for state sales tax, it doesn't matter if you live in the next state over, if you live in Canada, or if you live in Kazakhstan, you're still required to follow the same rules. So if you, like in Tennessee, if you make less than $4,800, you don't have to worry about sales tax. But in, say, New York, they're one of the states that says, hey, from your first sale, every state but Tennessee says from your first sale, you have sales tax nexus in our state, so you need to collect sales tax. Now, I do have sometimes international sellers ask me, like, well, I mean, what are the states going to do? Are they going to, come to Canada and seize my money? And probably not, I would say. So that might, you might want to look at your risk and say, I'm going to risk it, or I'm not going to risk it. Now, on the other hand, what I was at the Prosper Show. I don't know if any of you guys were at the Prosper Show. I talked to the head of the multi-state tax commission there. And he said that one thing they might do is seize your assets. So they might go to the Amazon warehouse and ask you for your commingled DVDs that you're selling or whatever. I mean, it seems a little hard to fathom for me, but apparently that, states do have things that they can do to you, but I don't think they would go to those lengths for an Amazon seller. So once again, that's just, I recommend talking to a CPA and then assessing your own risk. But yes, the Nexus rules apply to you if you live in Canada, if you live in Europe, if you live in the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. This one I particularly liked. Do all online sales require sales tax? Thank you.
Great question. Products require sales tax. So in the presentation I mentioned, sometimes in some states clothing isn't taxable. In some states, groceries aren't taxable. In some states, textbooks aren't taxable. So those sales would not require sales tax. So let's say that you live and all your business is in Pennsylvania and you only sell clothing in Pennsylvania. Well, clothing is not taxable in Pennsylvania, so you would not be required to collect sales tax. But most companies, unfortunately, don't have that luxury. Most of them have to collect sales tax on at least some of the things that you sell. So, but no, not every transaction requires sales tax, as long as the item is not taxable in that state.
That's very straightforward, yes. I think we have another one from Europe, because the question says, is sales tax US equivalent to UK VAT? And if so, is there a threshold of sales that you have to achieve it becomes payable?
Great question. So unlike VAT, it is a little bit like VAT because you pay it at the cash register, but other than that, it's really not like VAT at all. So there is no threshold for when you have to collect sales tax. And once again, it's most states except Tennessee say that if you make a sale in the state, you have sales tax nexus. But, and also unlike VAT, sales tax is collected by the merchant and is sent to the state. VAT has some more layers to it, so it can be a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, once again, unfortunately, sales tax is pretty cut and dry, and they don't care if you live in Europe or if you live in Canada or wherever you live. They just want their money, these states do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think this brings our live question session to an end. But please don't hesitate to email me or Jennifer with any other questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. Stay tuned for the webinar recording. We plan to send it out by the end of the week along with the slides. Before we end the session, I wanted to announce that we will be offering a SellerEngine special deal to all attendees at the webinar. The special deal refers to our salary repricing software. Anyone who gets our email is entitled to a month of free trial. Bear in mind that this is a perfect time to try out a powerful repricer before the holiday rush or Q4 kicks in. And with that in mind, I thank you, Jennifer, very, very much. And I thank to all our participants today.
Thank you so much, everybody. It was a pleasure. And please contact us if you have any more questions. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.